Hi, I am Life Coach Latricia Booker with Kingdom Business, where we are empowered, where we heal, we get delivered, and we get free. We know who we are, we elevate our minds and our spirits, and raise and expand our consciousness to ultimately walk in our true divine purpose. That is the truth of who God created us to be. First, I want to say thank you for viewing my videos. Thank you to all of my subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. And thank you for the donations to my channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so, I want to talk to you all today about being adaptable and how being adaptable helps you to manifest. So, when I speak of being adaptable, first, the idea of accepting what is first and foremost. Not just the idea, but the actual implementation of it. So, in any situation, in any circumstance, the idea is to be adaptable, which means first, again, accept what is. Sometimes in life, situations come up. We be on the flow. Something comes up. We have to do things different. We have to shift. We might not care to do that. So, if you don't care to do that, it's hard to adapt. You're not going to be so adaptable towards the change. It's kind of like, as they say, people resist change. People resist change because now you have to do something different than what you've been doing. And sometimes, many a times, that's uncomfortable for people. So it's pretty much the same thing. When you kind of go with change, that's being adaptable. That means you're accepting what it is and you're adjusting to it. You're adapting to it. Okay. So, again, the first thing is to accept that this is what it is. Then you can adapt to what it is. Now, you have to consciously adapt to what it is. And what I mean by that is you have to seriously reflect and get some understanding of what's really happening and why. You have to be consciously adaptable. So, again, what is that? Being consciously adaptable is a step above being practical about what's happening. So we can be practical and adapt to situations. For instance, maybe your work schedule changes and are practical about, okay, my work schedule has changed, and so this new work schedule will allow me to do this, that, and then other. Maybe some things you were not able to do because of the time frame of your original work schedule. Now, that is being practical, adapting practically. Now, when you are being consciously adaptable, being practical is part of it, but again, it's a step above that. It takes things to another level. I would say the 5D level, fifth dimension, the spiritual, the where your growth is involved, where you literally elevate yourself. And the way that happens is by taking into consideration how this will serve you, how this will assist your growth, how this change that you now have to adapt to, elevates you, helps you to evolve, helps you to grow, maybe helps you to heal, helps you to get free of some things, helps bring you some freedom where, again, using the work schedule as an example, Maybe if you had a work schedule from um, a certain work schedule that didn't allow you to do certain things. Like, for instance, some people work the weekends. Some people prefer not to. I'm going to say Sunday. Let's say Sunday. And I say Sunday because Sunday is a day that many people like to go to church. So if you have a work schedule where you have to work on Sundays and you're not able to make it to church and you would really like to, but you just adapt to your work schedule because right now this is what you have to do. So you get your church on in other ways that you can. When your schedule may change to Monday through Friday or whatever your schedule is, now you don't have to work on Sunday. So your Sundays are freed up. Now you can go to church on Sundays. So that can be something where you are free. And that's just one example. That's where you can be free in some kind of way. Because maybe in that instance, God is leading you to go to church for spiritual growth. Maybe it's a time and you're in a time and a place in your life where He's ready to do something with you different. And that's where He wants you to be. And or He wants you there to be something to someone, to wherever you're going. Sending you there to make a difference. Usually in my experience, it goes both ways because you're there to serve and you're there to be of service, but you're also there to be fed spiritually. Okay. I want to use another example. This is a perfect one. We hear about this one a lot. So let me put it in this context of being consciously adaptable. You lose your job. You lose your job. This was the way that you were able to pay your bills or take care of yourself, your family, and whatever else you choose to do with your finances. And then something happens where you get fired. Perfect example, this coronavirus that has happened. A lot of people were out of work. But if you had a dream of starting some business, if you had a dream of wanting to do something different, or maybe you didn't have that dream to do so. Maybe that isn't one of your goals. But let's just stick with it is. Now you are free to start your business. You're kind of put in a situation now where you kind of somewhat don't have any other choice unless you choose to keep looking for a job. And I'm not knocking that, but I'm saying that could be your opportunity. So, in other words, being consciously adaptable means that you will look at the change and the shift that has taken place in a way consciously for your good. That frees you up to do something really, really that you want to do. And so when I said how maybe it's not a dream of yours to have a business or whatever, sometimes that can happen to you. You can lose your job and then the idea will come and you will be receptive to it. And so being consciously adaptable, meaning consciously look at why this is good for you. If you don't know how to just pick up on that, ask God, Holy Spirit, what does this mean? What is this for? Why is this happening? What should I be doing with this? What should I do next? You know, so that's being consciously adaptable. You are being conscious about adapting to the new situation or the change. And you are on purpose understanding how this works to your benefit. It makes me think of how these things are not happening to you. They are happening for you. Being consciously adaptable requires you to understand how. to get the proper understanding of how that is so for you. Okay. Also, being adaptable to whatever situation, circumstances change, it releases resistance also. And what I mean by that is when you have a change and you're resisting it and you're fighting against it, you don't want it to happen. So you're not going with it and adjusting, adapting to it, accepting it for what it is. That's a resistance. That's fighting against. So when you adapt and you adjust, the resistance is not there. Now, I do understand that sometimes that doesn't happen so smoothly. And especially when it's something that you're learning to implement, it's a new thing that you're, taking on, so to speak. But as time goes on, you get better with it as you continue to work at it and be conscious of it, consciously work at it on purpose, consciously adapt, adapt consciously. So also, the whole thing is this: when you have resistance, like I said, you're fighting against, which means you're not going with the flow of life. You're not in a flow when you're in resistance. Now, I want to speak about being irritated, because being irritated is a form of resistance. Now, things happen to all of us, to the best of us, and something may irritate you. The idea is to catch that irritation ASAP so you can remove the resistance, because irritation is a form of resistance. If you're irritated, you're not in your proper flow. You're not in your God flow. You're not in the ebb and flow of life. You're not flowing with the streams. You're not in glide and in harmony with the river. You're just not. And I'm not saying any of that to knock anyone that gets irritated. I'm just saying to be aware and try to work at that so that you could eliminate as much resistance as possible. So, yeah, I got irritated today, but I saw it afterwards and I realized, wow, you know? So, the thing too is when there is resistance, your manifestations are held up or pushed back. Sometimes that depends on your level of resistance and how potent they are. And so what I mean by that is, if your resistance, like, okay, if you have a moment of being resistant or irritant or not adjusting to the change, just adapting to the situation, but you know deal with it pretty quickly, your manifestations are still manifesting, but it just might pause for a second because you're not in receiving mode. See, receiving mode is the opposite of resistance. Resistance is the opposite of receiving. You can't resist and receive at the same time. It's impossible. So, if you're in resistance for a longer time, and that can be anywhere from being irritated, being angry, and or in denial, not dealing with your feelings, and that's a big one because a lot of people suppress their feelings instead of dealing with them, and that's a form of resistance, and they're not able to manifest. And in my personal experience, what I've observed is people in that situation, it goes a little deeper than what I'm going to speak on, but I'm just going to speak on this. They resort to manipulation because they can't manifest properly. They manifest a bunch of mess in their life because they got a lot of junk going on, a lot of unresolved issues. And I'm not saying that to knock anybody. I'm saying it to state the facts of what's happening and how this works. So when you're not dealing with these things going on in here properly, you're irritated, you're angry, you're jealous, have a lingering jealous, have a competitive spirit. And I don't mean competitive in a good competitive, a healthy competitive way, such as sports. You know what I'm saying? One team, basketball team versus another, or just good friendly competition, or competition in the workplace where you have to be that way, so to speak, and you still have to be careful even with those things. But playing a board game or Monopoly, friendly competition. You know what I'm saying? But again, you have to be careful with that because you don't want to make it an ego thing. Because again, that creates resistance. You got to make it about you have to win and that's a whole another thing, because when you're that big on having to win something, it means you have really deep insecurities and self-esteem issues. But that's a whole nother thing. But I'm saying it to point out that creates resistance. Any of those things. So I implore and encourage you to deal with your issues so that you can be in a better place to be more adaptable. Because again, being resistant either stops, slows down, or literally pushes back and hold up your manifestations. And your manifestations can be anything from your your God-given dreams, visions, purpose, mission, the promises of God. Well, all those are the promises of God. Even when God has personally promises us something and given us visions and dreams, we are not able to walk in those things if we have a lot of resistance going on. It's just not going to happen. So it's good. And even if you do get some level of success because of your strong will, your hard work, your drive, it may not be the promises of God that you're getting. You're doing those things in your own self. You're from your ego-based self. It's not the promises of God. And also what happens with that, when they're not the promises of God, there's no happiness there. You're not even happy with the so-called success that you have obtained. It's not really successful, or it's not success if you're not happy. It's not godly success. It's not the promises of God. The promises of God do not come with misery. It comes with joy. So, again, resistance will either slow down, stop, or push back your manifestations. So, releasing resistance and becoming adaptable brings your manifestations in. Also, and actually, along with this, what God has been giving me is being adaptable will take you a long way in life. It can help you for God to be able to use you and move you and take you places. Yeah. And I'm not saying this again in a way of ego based. Want to go all over here and do this for your own recognition. I'm speaking of God can use you to move you and use you how He chooses for what He created you to do and be. for the purpose that He has given to you, for the mission that He has put you on. That's what I'm speaking of. When you become adaptable, He can use you. He can give you, He can walk you into those visions and into those dreams that He's given you. When you become adaptable, He can take you many places, many high places. He will cause you to experience great success because you are adaptable. And again, that is simultaneous, actually, with your manifestations, your God manifestations. Because remember, you can manifest some mess, or you can manifest something that ain't from God. You can, but it'll never make you happy. In fact, it can destroy you and make you very miserable. If it's not from God, it's not good. It's not good. So, adapt to your circumstances, your situations, and I'm even hearing to yourself. But that's a whole nother video. Take note, take note, take note, take note. Consciously adapt and receive your manifestations. Release resistance. And receive your manifestations. Being adaptable helps you to manifest. Being adaptable helps you to manifest. You guys, I'm going to leave you right there with that. Right there. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. Please click on that red subscribe button and subscribe to my channel. Also, can you just click on that bell right next to that red subscribe button so that you can get a notification every time I upload a new video. You can also connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at Latricia Booker and on Twitter at Kingdom Business 9. That is Kingdom Business with one S and the number 9. You can also connect with me on Likey at 1 Dr. Booker. That is 1 Dr. Booker. You guys, that's my tag. So, you know what that means. I, she, her. She out. Peace.